Greetings, children. Welcome to the second part of population interaction. In the previous class, we learned about the positive interspecific relationship which exists among organisms. I taught you about commensalism, protocooperation, and mutualism with its example. In today's class, I'm going to teach you the negative interaction. In that, the first one in negative interaction is predation. So predation is not a new term for you. Already you have heard about predation. In this relationship, one species is completely harming the other one for the use of food. Okay, it's the one organism is going to kill the other organism for its food. So the organism which will be acting as food here is considered as the prey, and the organism which is killing the other organism is called as the host or predator. So this host prey relationship or the predator prey relationship is established in this associationship. So in predation there are so many examples. You have already heard about, like tiger, deer, or lion, deer, or shark can act as a predator in aquatic ecosystem, in marine ecosystem. This other fishes like large and small fishes will be acting as the prey in that ecosystem. So there are so many examples for this prey and predator relationship. And you should understand one thing: no organism is completely depending on the prey habit, or else, like, no organism is completely depending on the predator possession. Each and every possession will change. Some organisms will act as both prey and predator in a particular ecosystem. For example, like a large fish in an aquatic ecosystem like marine or pond ecosystem, a large fish can act as a prey for the aquatic birds, or it can be a predator for the smaller fishes, right? The same case, while you come to a grassland ecosystem, a frog can act as a prey for the snake. It can act as a predator for the smaller insects found in that particular ecosystem. So these organisms' position or the place in a particular ecosystem may vary from prey or predator based on their individual intelligence of survival ability. So this is like, it's not a perfect position. It would change in a food chain or in a food web. It would change. And some organisms will be acting as a predator only when they are in adult, and they will be acting when they are in young one condition. They will be acting as like parasites. So these sort of organisms are called parasitoid. You could see this kind of parasitoid mode of living, mode of nutrition in lower invertebrates, especially in most of these insects. And the next important topic in negative interaction under predation is cannibalism. This cannibalism is killing organisms of its own species. If a tiger kills another tiger, or if a hippopotamus kills another hippopotamus for food, that is important, for food, then it is termed as cannibalism. Tiger won't do cannibalism, but hippopotamus used to do. And cannibalism can be seen in lower invertebrates mostly, which is considered as we won't talk about this cannibalism because most of the tribal community people, they do cannibalism in Andaman Nicobar Island, and all people are there, cannibals are there, but still it's considered as, like, for human it's considered as like it's like taboo or something, but here in animal kingdom it's very common. Like snail and slug, they used to do this. They are cannibals. They used to kill their own species for the dependence of food, and you can see this in kind of other animals too. And when I was going through the reference, I saw that the Tyrannosaurus rex, the kind of dinosaur one, that was also considered as a cannibal. Okay, so these things are the examples for cannibals. You just need to know about what is a cannibal organism, and you have to be very specific that they are killing their own species for food. That is very important. You have to mention that it's for food, because it's some organisms used to fight with their own species to get into the dominance peck, but it's not for the dominance peck. It's purely for food. So that is what the difference which is in from dominance peck and also from the cannibalism. That's what the difference. And one more thing I need to tell you, that predation is entirely different from parasitism. So here parasitism means they are affecting, they are not killing, but for predation it is pure killing. There is nothing else. They are killing another organism for food. That is what the difference between parasitism and predation. Now this predation is common in plants too. This is found in plants too. Now we are going to learn about the predation that we could see in plants. So in plants, you know that Nepenthes, when you hear the word Nepenthes, the first thing, or when you see the picture of Nepenthes, the first thing in your mind is insectivorous plants. So this insectivorous plants, they are eating insects for their survival. So they are predators. Their prey are the insects. So these predators, why do they go into such a kind of nutrition? They are not getting food directly, but they are getting food indirectly. That's what the real fact. They will do photosynthesis. Can you see that the leaves, these are the modified leaves, the real leaves, they will be doing photosynthesis. You can see chlorophyll everywhere, so they are doing photosynthesis too. Then why do they need insects? So these insects are captivated for the source of nitrogen. Generally these sort of plants prefer to grow, or these sort of plants used to grow in nitrogen less soil, like marshy land or something, like nitrogen less soil they will be growing. So for the source of nitrogen, these plants will be killing the insects with the help of their proteolytic enzymes. I guess you know the meaning of the word proteolytic, protein killing enzymes. So proteolyzing lytic enzymes are there in this plant's nectar along with their attractive juice. So these proteolytic enzymes will work on with the enzymes, work on the enzymes, and they will get the protein, and the protein will get digested. Now I am showing you the picture of the plants that is given here. Now Nepenthes, this is what Nepenthes, and this is a kind of pitcher plant too. This is what the pitcher, and this is known as butterwort, Pinguicula butterwort, and this is the closer picture of Pinguicula. I need you to show you the butterwort leaf. This is actually, this would why it is termed as butterwort is it's so sticky. The leaves are so sticky, and it will be producing nice smell too. So this is butterwort, and this is bladderwort, and this is the bladderwort flower. So this is bladderwort, and this is Venus flytrap. Venus flytrap is Dionaea. Okay, so this bladderwort is sorry, this is sundew. This is Drosera. Okay, Drosera, and bladderwort will also be like this, a kind of like this. So these are the insectivorous plants, or these are the predatory plants. Now you have to know some terms in this. I guess you are taking notes, or if those who don't have a habit of taking notes, please you need to open your book at least to underline these things. These are the generally asked questions from this particular part. So the first thing, for plants, the plants generally acting, or generally they are the prey for the predators. Who are the predators for plants? Mostly herbivores, right? Mostly herbivores, sometimes omnivores, and sometimes carnivores too. Very rare, sometimes carnivores too. Carnivores, like you would have heard about, like tiger used to eat grass for its digestive trouble. So sometimes carnivores too eat plants. So plants are always the prey. So this about this predator calculation, nearly 25% of insects, they are completely plant eating. They are depending on the plant sap, plant tender parts. So nearly 25%. You would have heard that arthropods, or the insects, are the predominant organisms in the world. So this predominant organisms, nearly 25% of this predominant organism are completely feeding on plants. So those organisms which feed on plants, the insects which feed on plants, are called phytophagus. So phytophagus means feeding on plants. Nearly 25% of insect population is completely depending on plant, or plant sap, or plant part. So we call those insects, those herbivorous insects, as phytophagus. So to prevent from these sort of predators, the plants can't go, the plants can't run away from one place to another, the plants can't hide in one place. So what kind of adaptation a plant is generally developing to prevent itself from the attack of these predators? So these are some, you're going to learn some of these adaptations that the plants has developed. So the first one I want to tell you about the adaptation is thorns and spines in plants. You can see this thorns and spines in plants generally in a little bit dry area. Think about cactus, think about the thorny bougainvillea. So these sort of plants, all the thorny spine bearing plants, rose, they doesn't require too much of water. They are little above mesophytic, or they are going to be in the xeric stage between mesophyte and xerophytes. So they doesn't require too much water. So these plants develop thorns and spines. Can you understand that? Can you correlate the nature's thought there? When a plant is preferred to grow in a comparatively drier area, they have to develop its own protection from the predators, which will be attacking the plants for a source of water too. So that's why they naturally have thorns and spines. Okay, so as they have thorns and spines, they are free from the predators. They are technically they are not an easy prey. Okay, so that's why thorns and spines are there in plants, especially in the dry loving plants. And then the next one, some of the plants, for example, like milkweed. Milkweed is bougainvillea. This is bougainvillea. I'm sorry. This is Calotropis. So the milkweed is Calotropis. So this Calotropis, they will be producing a milky latex. You would have seen this around our place. In our place also, it's very common. So this Calotropis, it's otherwise termed as milky weed. This will be producing a dangerous metabolite, that is cardioglycosides are there. I would have heard that they are having alkaloids. That's why these alkaloids are used in various immediate first aid sort of thing by local people. So like if there is any burn, or if there is any cut they got in the feet, they used to apply this latex. The local people, they used to do this as an indigenous sort of medicine. It's not medically proved, but still the people used to do that. So you would have heard about that they are having alkaloids, but generally cattle own grass on these sort of plants. The reason is the plant is completely with cardiac glycosides. They are having some dangerous alkaloids in it. These dangerous alkaloids, these dangerous chemicals present in these plants, especially like cardiac glycosides, will prevent it from grazing animals. So that's a kind of mechanism that the plant has developed, right? And next important development that we could see in animals and also in plants also, this is there is camouflage. Camouflage is they are hiding, they are changing their appearance as like their environment where they are, and they will be protecting themselves from other predatory animals. So here there is a lizard. Yeah, I guess this is lizard, and this is a frog, which is and you would have heard about this Bistonbitularia, right? In zoology lessons you would have learned about Bistonbitularia. So that Bistonbitularia also, it will be go sync with the bark where it is, right? I could see, like if you text camouflage in image search, you would have seen a lot of examples, even giraffe. Okay, almost all the animals, even our skin color is because of this camouflage. We need to go better with our earth color. That's why we are like this. That's why animals are like this. That's why plants are like that. Okay, so this is the best mechanism believed as camouflage. And I'll tell you about a story of monarch butterfly when we are talking about this defense mechanism from to escape from predators. This monarch butterfly is an very abundantly found one. The reason why how it is abundantly found, or how it is more in number, is because of their adaptation. They are evolved a little bit. This monarch butterfly, they used to lay their eggs on this milkweed. They used to lay their eggs on the leaves of this milkweed. I already told you milkweed is being not touched by any of the grazing cattle because they have the alkaloids. And this egg is the egg of this monarch butterfly will generally be being laid on this leaf. And when they are growing up, when they are transforming into larvae, before they are transforming into pupae, they will be eating voraciously, right? So when they are eating voraciously, they will be eating this leaves. The larvae will be eating this leaf for their time of metamorphosis, or before their metamorphosis stage. They will be eating these leaves voraciously. So this monarch butterfly is getting this alkaloid. They are feeding these alkaloids too. And thus this monarch butterfly becomes distasteful for the predator. So this is the best adaptation that we could see in animals. This butterfly is chemically, it's feeding on the poisonous weed, and chemically it becomes distasteful. So most of the predators like lizards or something, most of the predators, they won't prefer this butterfly itself. Okay, that's why we could see this butterfly a lot. So in animals especially, you can say this one as an example for defense mechanism, and one more example is about camouflage. What about in plants? Plants, they will be developing thorns and spines, and they will be developing dangerous metabolites with them. For example, what is that, milkweed, that calotropis. Okay, so these are some of the examples or some of the adaptations that we could see in plants and animals to escape from the predators. The next one, we need to know about the predators, and the last one is about antagonistic relationship. The prey and predator relationship is generally antagonistic in nature. The prey and predator relationship is antagonistic. Antagonistic means opposites. Like if the prey population is more, the predator will be less. Okay, if the predator is more, prey population will go less, right? You can say that in other sense, if the predator population is high, prey population will go low. If the predator population is low, prey population will be more. Can you understand that? If there is one cow, you could see the entire grassland producing too much of grass. If there is 100 cow, what about the grass condition, right? So this is what antagonistic relationship. That's why generally predators, I'm talking about predators, those who are voracious eaters, or predators, those who are very ferocious. These predators, ferocious predators, are generally prudent in nature. Prudent, an English word, prudential, right? What is this prudent? That means they are not idiots. They will be thinking so clever. They will be thinking so many times before taking a risk. They are not easy risk takers. They, like tiger and lion, you would have heard that tiger and lion, if they are tummy full, they won't attack another animal. Until and unless it's very necessary, they won't move from their place. So that is what the prudent predators habit. The prudent predators, they used to be like so much clever. They will be very calculative, and they are not lazy eaters. That's the reason. And you would have think about that cow and cattle is not like that, because they are eating plants. They can grow voraciously, right? But think about this tiger and lion. If they are eating like cattle, if they can eat as much they wish, there won't be any other animal on this world, right? So this is the difference. Cattle and voracious predators, or the ferocious predators, that would be the correct thing. The ferocious predators are always prudent. They won't be eating, they won't be killing a prey for no reason. They will be very calculative, because the main reason is, if they are eating too much, there won't be any prey for the organisms, for the same organisms in the future days. So they will be calculative. They will be thinking about the risk too. Okay, so this is what the nature's balancing technique. All the predators are mostly prudent in nature. Now the next things are like, these are the importance of prey predator relationship. The importance, why do we think more about this? The prey predator relationship is actually conduit of energy. When energy is, they are food chain, right? The transfer of energy happens from one tropic level to another tropic level. So this is conduit of energy. They act as conduit of energy. And then so these are the importance of prey predator relationship. They act as conduits of energy, and this relationship distribute, or this relationship helps in the distribution, helps to know about the distribution of predators. Like if in a place, in an ecosystem, the predators generally, they won't have only one particular prey. They won't be very specific about their prey. right? If it is a herbivore, they can eat a lot of plants. They doesn't like cow doesn't depend on only grass. Instead of grass, it will be eating some other leaves too. So this prey predator relationship, that is responsible for the ecological balance too. Because of that only ecosystem is balanced, right? Otherwise, if a cow is completely specific towards only grass, or if a lion is completely towards only cattle, this ecosystem cannot be maintained in a balanced way. So that distribution of predators or prey is depending on how not specific they are. Okay, they can feed on anything that is connected to it, anything that is alike of the other prey. So this is maintaining the ecosystem in a proper way. And the next important point is weed control or pest control. This weed or pest can be controlled by using this prey predator relationship. For example, like if one if in a place too many mosquitoes are there, generally you would have seen that in nature too, lizards will enter in, and this lizards will reduce the mosquito population in that particular place. So weed control or pest control is naturally being done by this prey predator relationship. If in a place it was practiced by some people, when the opensia population becomes so high in Australia, the people or the environmentalist introduces cactoblastis, a kind of insect, that is cactoblastis. This cactoblastis starts spoiling this opensia, starts eating, feeding on this opensia, and reduces the population of opensia in that particular place of Australia. And then one more example in Mauritius, when red locust population was so high, red locust, which is very dangerous insect, which was high in that Mauritius, people introduced myna from India into that place, and that controlled the number of red locust, and then the environment becomes sustained in that particular place. But even though we are talking like this about the weed and pest control, what is not in nature's mind will not sustain, and later there may be a trouble because of this cactoblastis insect count in that particular place of Australia, in that particular zone of county of Australia, or else the myna would have created trouble later in Mauritius, because they are exotic species. Exotic species will always create trouble in an ecosystem. So that you will learn in future lessons. So these are the important points of prey predator relationship that is given in your text. So kids, you need to read the entire predation part. So in today's class we learn only about predation. You have to go through whatever things we have learned about predation, and in future classes we will be learning about the rest. And your homework today is go with the questions which is connected with this predator. There are so many important questions in this part, like about milkweed, about monarch butterfly. There are so many important questions, and you should know the difference between predation and parasitism. So this is your homework today. Go with your book evaluation questions and try doing this NCERT questions, hot questions. And I need you to send the copy of your note to me. Even you can mark it in book, take a copy of that and send it to me. And those who are getting low mark in test has to write retest, so think about that. Thank you kids. I guess you should understand that. If there is any doubt, you just message me. Thank you.